Good evening, vanakkam, good morning, and wherever you are, namaskaram. This is your host, Venki, with today's edition of Southern Spice, the only Tamil program on AM and FM frequencies in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut region, only on Radio Zindagi. It's at 13:10 a.m. in Parsippany, 96.7 FM in Edison, New Jersey, and 5:40 a.m. in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And Southern Spice has been the longest running Tamil program, started in 2004 and it's 2024. So we're already 20 years into the show. And post COVID, we've started coming live on Facebook and on YouTube in the Southern Spice USA channels and also on RJ Venki channel in Facebook. So every week, every episode, Southern Spice tries to bring you some interesting personalities. We are not too much into celebrity interviews, but we bring you the daily heroes, the heroes that you really don't know about, but we really want you to know about. And in that series, right now, I'm working with a lot of youngsters, predominantly high schoolers in the USA, who are doing something very different from others. And you might have seen our couple of interviews in the past. So today, we are going to be interviewing a student called Taksh Bhatia. Taksh's mission is to fight HIV with CRISPR. That's a program called CRISPR, CRISPR, and to empower blind youth through education. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring Taksh onto the screen and let's start the discussion.
Hi, Venki. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, Taksh. Welcome to Southern Spice. It's always fun to have youngsters like you. You're just a high school senior in Phoenix, Arizona, and you're doing something very, very interesting. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about it. So could you start, by just giving us a brief introduction about yourself and what you're kind of most passionate about?
Yeah, for sure. So I think Venki had already just mentioned it. Hi, my name is Taksh Bhatia. I am a current high school senior and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Some of my passions, I think even Venki had introduced that. Really, I am a big fan of biological research, especially gene editing and infectious disease research. And I'm also a big advocate for education for the blind and visually impaired. Those are some of my biggest missions that I hope to pursue even in college. But apart from some of my missions, of course, some of my favorite pastimes are definitely, for example, playing cricket, watching Bollywood movies with my family, and taking hikes and whatnot with friends. So that's just a little bit about me specifically, but I really do want to continue exploring a lot more activities, a lot more causes when I transition from high school to college in the next year.
Terrific. So what really inspired you to conduct research on HIV and AIDS? Why did the issue resonate with you?
Yeah, so it lots of the reasons that people have begun to fight many diseases is maybe for some personal reasons, for example, or their personal experiences against the disease of sorts. So for
Mhm.
me, the way I'd come across HIV and AIDS was not exactly through a familial experience, but rather through school. So the way I'd actually come across HIV and AIDS was through a Spanish exercise in which we were just working to translate from Spanish to English, and we'd just been listening to some Spanish songs specifically. So one of these songs was called El Gran Varón, which is translating to the great man. And the way the song is characterized is it's about a man who was plagued by AIDS and eventually died to it without the doctors being able to do anything. That sort of was his life story specifically. And just seeing how no matter how many technological advancement had happened in the 1980s, the 1990s, this disease was so devastating that even the doctors couldn't even recognize it or characterize it as HIV up until the late 1980s, for example. And just seeing how devastating it was for populations all across the world. And even today, there's no cure, which is utterly fascinating because even though 40 years of research, we still have not found a cure. And so that really did resonate with me. And I guess it really just helped me realize that this was a cause I wanted to immerse myself within and work with other people to potentially devise and put out a cure for HIV patients worldwide.
Terrific. I mean, it's going to take me some time to internalize the depth of what you just spoke about. So I see that you authored a research paper titled "Can CRISPR-Cas9 Cure HIV/AIDS?" Right?
Yeah.
So, what is CRISPR-Cas9? How does it work? And why do you think it holds such a revolutionary potential for the cure of HIV and AIDS?
Definitely. So, for those who may not know specifically, CRISPR is more or less it's a technology that has been harnessed by scientists to edit genes. So, as we all probably do know, us organisms, as human beings, like any other living being on planet Earth, we have DNA, and the DNA has characterized our specific traits, physical, biological. So many different parts of our body are really just responsible, and they're the way they are because of the DNA. And the way CRISPR functions is, and the way it's being just continually developed, is that it can be utilized in a way that we can have that specific CRISPR technology utilized to edit the components of the gene. And if utilized in different organisms and different living beings, it can alter their characteristics. So, what makes CRISPR so revolutionary is that even in different potentially some traits in which people might have some diseases, some genetic diseases that prevent them from having potentially as much mental development, as much physical development. If we can potentially edit these genes, it can really help in rather expressing those genes in a more functional fashion rather than being dysfunctional in a different way. So with CRISPR, it really does hold the potential to potentially cure a lot of diseases, the cure to reduce many different syndromes, for example, to really ensure that development. And if we can harness, if we can make sure it's safe for humans, it can really pose to be a big cure for people worldwide.
So that's pretty interesting and intense, actually. Can you expand what CRISPR stands for?
Yeah, for sure. So the way CRISPR works is it stands for clustered random palindromic repeats. It's like a very long word, for example. And the way CRISPR was even derived was it was actually found in bacteria. And it's sort of like just a shortened form of a specific kind of a specific series of proteins that have been found in bacteria. And it's originally used so that bacteria can know that if they do come in contact with a specific disease, external disease that might come back to infect the bacteria can recognize that disease and defend itself against it. Kind of like how when we take vaccines, for example, we take the vaccine so we protect ourselves from like the flu or from different kinds of diseases. So that's kind of how bacteria utilizes CRISPR. But the way scientists have begun to harness it and develop CRISPR into a more gene editing technology, it allows it to be used in many different ways instead of just defending ourselves like a vaccine. We could maybe use it to alter physical characteristics, maybe some specific characteristics that might have genetic related diseases. And with CRISPR, if it can obviously be made safe, which is still being done every single day, if it can be made more safe, if we can make it more accessible for people, it really can become something that can be utilized worldwide eventually.
Nice, nice. So while it is exciting, and I'm sure it has its own kind of challenges, right? So what do you
Definitely.
think? What do you think are its you know drawbacks, or if there is any ethical concerns related to using CRISPR for gene editing?
Yeah, sure. So CRISPR definitely does have some specific concerns in
Mhm.
relation to maybe should it be even used in the first place to edit genes? Because lots of people that do advocate against CRISPR and do harbor some concerns against it, they say, like many of their arguments around, we're born the way we are and we should be proud about it, which is definitely a valid argument. And if we just edit those genes the way that our ancestors have passed us down, it could really affect our future generations if something goes wrong. And it never maybe was meant to happen this way. So there are many arguments surrounding like, is CRISPR even something that should be used? Was it ever meant to be used this way? or maybe their concerns, which also still continue to this day, about how safe it is. Because at the end of the day, if we are going to try to edit our genes, even if we can potentially cause some cures for some specific genetic conditions, at the same time, if the gene becomes inaccurate, if the gene editing system edits the wrong specific gene, it could also cause some other different complications. So
Wow.
there are also these many different concerns, like social complications, the medical complications that CRISPR can cause, which has definitely wrought a lot of criticism on its usage in current medical conditions and environments.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's quite a lot for a high school senior, I should say. So, what are the next steps for your research? Are you planning to continue working on CRISPR or expand into other areas?
Definitely. So obviously the way I at least just conducted the research, it was mainly a literature review in which I studied some of the past, and even there's not actually too many, in fact, studies on CRISPR and on these infectious diseases. So really I was just working out on what are some of these current studies going on CRISPR and how we're using on HIV and other similar viruses. But in the future, at least like when I go to college and do research in the labs, I do want to work with other infectious disease specialists, with other gene editing specialists. So that way, even though I do have quite a bit of theoretical knowledge on CRISPR and HIV, I really do think it's important that if I am to be part of this movement and really work towards this cure, that I do become well knowledgeable with how to use CRISPR in the lab environment. And because if I'm not able to do that, at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to really come up with a cure if you're just behind the computer screen and reading other articles. And that's really something that I want to push forward for. I do want to work with other HIV specialists, learn from them how some of the different intricacies of the virus are, how CRISPR really works on a molecular level, how does it edit specific genes, what are its kinds of behaviors. There's so much to unpack, and I really do believe that in college, when I'm working with different professors in the lab, that's a path that I do want to take. And through that, I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, maybe we can come up with an HIV cure in the near future.
Terrific, terrific. Daksh, wish you all the best in that pursuit. I think
Thank you.
you're going to come up trumps with some really good stuff there. I just want to transition in the interest of time, beyond lab and beyond research. I believe you've also been making a difference through supporting blind children's education. It's called Project Bliss. So tell me
Yes.
more about that.
Yes, so just a bit of background on Project Bliss specifically. So, Project Bliss is a student run organization. It's centered in India right now, in the NCR area specifically.
Mhm.
And basically, the way Project Bliss does work is students, we run drives specifically in the underprivileged communities for kids of potentially different disabilities, like blind, visually impaired, and with different diseases that kind of have hampered their ability to progress as much in elementary school or in middle school. And so Project Bliss has recognized that, yes, there are definitely lots of new technologies being developed to make sure that these kids can really keep up with the education, that these kids can really receive the opportunities to flourish in society like others. But there's still a lot of gaps, for example, in many different areas, like how much equal treatment are they receiving? How much technology are they receiving? So that way they can really receive a good experience that can really enrich them and can help them become successful members of society. So through Project Bliss, we've really worked to introduce a lot of fundraisers for new technologies for different care centers. And I myself recently did take an initiative in the LA area, for example, in which I worked with the Blind Children's Care Center. And basically in that fundraiser we were raising money for the technologies, for the children's support, for their education, because it's a facility that provides free education to these children, and so they do need funding. And through this initiative we were able to raise $2,200 for their education. And just seeing lots of their kids success stories, it's really warmed my heart, and I'm hoping that the funds we've raised, it can really lead to just so many more success stories in the future.
That is so cool, Taksh. I think you need to be doing a lot more of that kind of activity because you're really empowering the future with helping these kids. So, is there any particular memorable or inspiring moment from your work in Project Bliss that you'd like to share with us?
Definitely. So I think one really inspiring moment that I can recall from working in Project Bliss is lots of the times, like on the Instagram page, on the social media pages, when we edit and post these videos, we really just see like how many of the in-person drives, for example, like in India, when we're teaching them the ABCs, one, two, threes, and just seeing how they're learning how to write those letters, they're learning how to write the numbers, learning how to read it from the whiteboards or sing songs together. Just seeing some of those examples in the past drives, like recently, um, I think we had one in Delhi, for example, and
Mm.
I just seen like there's just a group of kids singing like the Doraemon theme song, just like from a children's cartoon, and seeing them just like saying the alphabet out loud, like A, B, C, one, two, three, and just learning that even it's super basic stuff, but just seeing those underprivileged kids really getting into the field of education, enjoying what education is really all about. I think just seeing, even if it was online, just seeing the impact that we were able to create through these drives, through these fundraisers, and how we were able to create these lifelong memory experiences for these kids. Those are things that keep me going and they really motivate me to continue to spread the message of Project Bliss worldwide.
Really touching. So yeah, so absolutely, fills you up, fills you up, fills your heart, and makes you want to do more to help and reach out to more such underprivileged children. Keep continuing that, Taksh. So if you want to tell your fellow high schoolers, right, who may be interested but don't know how to get into it, either in your groundbreaking research or in your community projects, what would you tell them? How would you ask them to get involved?
I think one really important thing is for other high schoolers is lots of high schoolers, they do tend to get into initiatives that they might not be as passionate about, that they're just seeing others doing and they want to be a part of. I really do think that, at least in my high school experience, it's really important to go for an initiative that you are really passionate about. Now, I know it's something that people tend to say, like, follow your passions, follow your dreams, but I don't think it's ever enough to just overemphasize how important it is, because when you're really passionate about something, I think it really just drives you to put more, that extra mile of effort into making sure those things succeed. Like for me, when it comes to the blind education drive specifically, if there are even like those little mishaps or those little errors, it really does push me, like how we can fix them, how we can improve in the future to make sure that we can reach more people instead of just giving up. And lots of the times, if you have a cause that's so important to you, but even if there's not too much community support, I think it's these high school students who feel that this initiative is so important to them, they should take the chance to really spread it and really lay out the framework so that way these initiatives can take hold in their community. So yeah, all in all, just saying follow your passion, follow your causes, and really your passion, the effects, it'll just come after you when you see those efforts, those extra miles of efforts that you put into these initiatives, it'll all just come together.
Brilliant. So is your family involved with you? Do they help you do this, or how do you manage your school and curriculum and studies and all of these activities?
Definitely. I do have to thank my mom and dad specifically. Like when it came to the fundraisers, they really do play a big role in helping us spread the message across social media, whether it's on Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. They really do help in sending it to, let's say, their friends, for helping support these drives, for helping support these fundraisers, maybe spreading the word on Project Bliss and getting more supporters. So they've really been a huge pillar in helping these drives succeed. And even for the research, even though it's usually me who's conducting the research on my own, they've really been big motivators in helping me understand, like, this is the cause that I want to be part of it, researching HIV and finding the cures. So they've been huge motivators for me to just continue, even if it's difficult at times. They've always been my number one supporter. So yeah, I've got to thank them for that, for sure.
Brilliant. Taksh, wish you all the best. I think you're doing phenomenal work. Keep it going. and good luck for college. And hopefully, I'll see you again in a future episode of Southern Spice, and we'll talk more about CRISPR and Project Bliss. Thank you so much for taking the time and
Of
coming on
course,
Southern
always
Spice.
happy to be here. Thank you, Venki.
All right, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, so that was Taksh Bhatia from Phoenix, Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen, this generation of youngsters, the high schoolers, is it's phenomenal. They're just blazing the trail. So spread the word. If you saw this interview, please share it with your friends. Please let them know that these kind of interesting initiatives taken by high school students are going on all over the world, specifically in America. This is Southern Spice. I'm your host, Venki, and we are on Facebook and YouTube, streaming live on Southern Spice USA channels and on RJ Venki channel on Facebook, and broadcasting on Radio Zindagi, which is in the New York, New Jersey tri-state area, 1310 AM in Parsippany, New Jersey, 96.7 FM in Edison, New Jersey, and 5:40 AM in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, every Wednesday, 7 to 8 PM Eastern Time. So on that note, I'll take leave and I'll come back to you with another interesting and fun episode of Southern Spice. Take care. Thank you.